Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about solving three variable systems. Now, whenever you solve three variable systems, just like when we solve two variable systems, it's possible to get one solution, no solution, or infinitely many solutions. So it's important to be able to remember that if you ever get to a spot where your variables cancel out, to know what that looks like. We're not really going to see those today though, and so let's just go ahead and dive in here to number one. So number one, you can see that we have three separate equations, right? I have 3 plus r equals negative 2. I have 2r minus 5t equals 20. And then I have this bigger equation. So this one is a really really simple system of three variable equations. We have an r, oops, hate when that happens. We have an r, we have a t, and we have an s, right? And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to come in here and we're going to have to solve for all three of those, for r, for s, and for t. So let's write out our equation. So my first equation is 3 plus r equals negative 2. My second equation is 2r minus 5t equals 20. And my final equation, I'm going to go ahead and write it up here so I have plenty of room to work with that one. And that one's going to be negative 6r minus 5s plus 6t equals negative 11. Now, it's very important to have a plan whenever you go into it. Like I said, though, this one is pretty simple. We already have an equation that only has one variable, so a lot of our work is done for us. We just need to make sure that we stay organized, make sure we hang on to the correct negatives and positives, and that sort of thing. So for this, all we're going to need to do is I'm going to minus 3 to both sides, and we're going to get r equals negative 5. And just like that, I already know what r equals, and I can write that down here. R equals negative 5. However, once I know what r is, I can use that information to find out what t is. Check this out. I can plug it in for r right there. I can go 2 times negative 5 minus 5t equals 20. And so 2 times negative 5 is, of course, negative 10. Minus 5t equals 20. Then I will add 10 to both sides. And we will end up with negative 5t equals 30. Then all I got to do is divide both sides by negative 5. And we end up with t equals negative 6. Okay? Just like that, we already have two of my three answers here. R is negative 5, t is negative 6. Once we get those two values, though, what we can do is we can take those and we can plug it back into the final equation to figure out what s is. And so it's just kind of that stepping stone kind of thing. They're not always going to be quite this simple, but this is a pretty good example here. So now I can take this here and we're going to take that r and that t, and we're going to plug both of those in up here. So I'll plug the r in for r, so we'll have negative 6 times negative 5. Now that minus 5s, that's going to stay the same because we don't have what s is yet. That's what we're looking for. And then I'm going to take that t and plug it in for t over here. So we'll have t times 6 times negative 6 equals negative 11. Now we just need to simplify and combine like terms. Well, these two make 30. And then 6 times negative 6 is negative 36. Now we can combine like terms. 30 and negative 36 make negative 6. Now I will just add 6 to both sides. We will get negative 5s equals negative 5. Divide both sides by negative 5, and we're going to end up with, let's see, we're going to end up with s equals positive 1. Awesome. So we got my third answer, and s equals positive 1. Okay, so I'm hoping you're seeing how simple this can be. It's just three variables. We're working with all three, but it really works just like what we have been doing. For a lot of these problems, it's easier to use substitution. For a lot of them, it's easier to use elimination. So once again, you have to be intuitive about these sort of things. Let's go ahead and turn the page, and let's take a look at number 2. So number 2 is another great example of us having 3 equations. So once again, I'm going to write these out. So I'm going to write out x minus z equals 10. I'm going to write out y minus 12z equals 0. And then up here, so I have enough space, I'm going to write x plus y plus z equals 80. Now, this is where we really have to stop and think about what we are doing. This is important. So, I want you to see here how simple this problem is as well. And I want you to look at all 3 of your problems and think about which letter is in all 3 of my problems. Okay? That's important. So which letter is in all 3 of my problems? And the letter that is in all 3 of my problems is Z. So I have a Z here, a Z here, a Z here. So if I were to combine all of these equations, I could create one equation that only has Z's in it. And then once I figure out what Z is, it'll be really simple to find out what X and Y is. So check this out. If I add Z to both sides here, we're going to end up with X equals Z plus 10. And what I can do is I can take that value for X and plug it in for X up there. I can also do the same thing here. I could solve this one to get where I can plug in my Z. So I'm going to solve this one for the thing that's other than my Z. So over here, I'm also going to add 12Z to both sides. And I'm going to end up with Y equals 12Z. And I can also take that 12Z, and I can plug it in. Oops, not for that Z. We're going to plug it in for my Y right there. So I can just take both of those, plug it in, and I can create an equation that only has Z's in it. So now we could end up like this. Instead of having X there, I'm going to have Z plus 10. Instead of having Y there, I'm going to have 12Z. And then I still have this Z here on the end, and it equals 80. Now we'll combine my terms. Z plus 12Z plus Z is 14Z. So I'll have 14Z plus 10 equals 80. Then I will minus 10 to both sides. And I'll end up with 14Z equals 70. And then I will divide both sides by 14. And we'll end up with Z equals 70 divided by 14 is 5. So my Z is going to equal 5. I can write that in right here. Now, if my Z equals 5, I need to plug that Z in here and here to see what my X and Y are. So if I take that Z and plug it in here, we're going to get X equals 5 plus 10. Hey, that's just 15. So X equals 15. And then I can take that 5 and plug it in here too. We'll go 12 times 5. And 12 times 5 is, of course, 60. So my Y is going to be 60. Now, our final question here, it says, what is the value of X minus Y plus 2Z? So let's see here. If my X is 15, we'll go minus my Y, which is 60, and then plus 2 times my Z, and my Z is 5. Well, 15 minus 60 is 45, negative 45, and 2 times 5 is 10. If I add those together, we'll end up with negative 35. That's my answer, okay? Just be thinking about, sometimes it asks you a question like this, just like you've seen in the past. All right, our last problem here for today is number 3. So number 3, it says, in a photo album, there are 80 pictures. Each picture is in the shape of a square, a rectangle, or a circle. So that square, rectangle, circle, that's what we're going to be looking for. So I'm going to say my S, oof, I don't know why it does that sometimes. My S is going to be for my square picture frames. My R is going to be for rectangle picture frames. And then I'm going to use C for my circle picture frames. Now let's see if I can get these three equations together. Let's see. So there are 12 times as many rectangles as circles. So remember what we talked about yesterday, where it says 12 times as many rectangles? That means we're going to write like this. Rectangles equals 12 times the number of circles. Because I have a whole lot more rectangles, I need to multiply my circles to reach that number. Okay, so that was that first equation. And the second equation, there are 10 more squares than circles. So my squares equals my circles plus 10. Okay? All right, and then my last equation. So then write three equations to determine how many of each type of picture are in the album. Well, my last equation is very simply just going to be, I have 80 pictures total. So that means that square plus circle plus rectangle equals 80. All right, just like we did before, we're going to think about, okay, which number is in all three equations. And then we're going to get that number to the other side so we can plug it in. So I'm looking at this and I'm just saying, oh, this is too easy. There's a C in each one of these, right? So what I can do is I can take this value for R, plug it in for R. I can take this value for S, plug it in for S, and then I've created an equation that only has one variable. So instead of S there, I can have C plus 10 plus C plus, instead of the R, I'm going to have 12C, and that's going to equal 80. Okay? Now, if I combine these together, we're going to get 14C plus 10 equals 80. Minus 10 to both sides, we get 14C equals 70. Divide both sides by 14, and we're going to equal 5. I feel like I've seen that before. Oh yeah, it was the previous problem. Guys, I just wanted to show you this is what a word problem would look like for a problem like what we just saw. Okay? So don't let the word problems freak you out. The word problems are just there to let you interpret what we're doing. Okay? All right, so C equals 5, and then once I know what C is, I can plug that in. And so we're going to go R equals 12 times 5, just like we did last time, which is, of course, 60. And then 5 plus 10, number of squares is 15. Okay? And so there are my answers. All right, guys. Hopefully that makes sense. You got to get some good practice here on those word problems. But I want to see what you can do. Okay? All right. Get to work on those three solutions. I'll be around to help you. All right. Thanks.